Welcome. My name is Jennifer Bernard, and I'm currently in my second year of the Child and Youth Worker program at Fleming College. I have created the following presentation where I will discuss various aspects of supervision. This will include my thoughts and conceptions about mentorship, my needs and preferences of supervision, my self-monitoring process of self-care, and professional development. I will also address what burnout and compassion fatigue are and what it looks like for me, and the various ways that I can lessen the possibility from it happening, and if or it has occurred, the different strategies I have implemented that I will use to recover from that. I will begin talking about mentorship. So in regards to going about finding a mentor and what characteristics I would want this person to have, I do think that a mentor can be a friend or another person who you have a developmental relationship with that consists of having similar knowledge and experience in a particular area. A mentor acts as a support system that is able to help guide and be a role model to you by demonstrating a positive attitude. So I feel that a mentor can share knowledge, advice, personal experiences, and strategies that may have been successful for them as a way to guide you. On a more personal note, I feel that a mentor is not just anybody. I think that you need to be able to view them as a role model and be someone you have or can establish a trusting foundation with. And they also have to be someone who can guide and support you in a non-threatening and a non-judgmental manner. I feel that trust is probably the most important characteristic in finding a mentor or establishing a relationship with. In order to find that relationship to develop and trust to become a parent, you have to have the patience and realize that it does take time. So to go about finding a mentor, I also feel that it's necessary to have similar life experience, knowledge, or circumstances, and that it can be very situational. So for an example, being that I'm in the child and youth worker field, I think that it would be in my best interest to obtain a mentor who has expertise in the field so that they are able to provide me with adequate and appropriate support or guidance, and that they're able to also relate to what I would confide them in approach or disclose, or what information I would disclose to them. I would begin finding a mentor by taking the time to reflect on the connection I have with a person and how comfortable that particular person makes me feel. And I, for an example, would feel more comfortable with someone who was older than me with a little bit more experience. And I feel this way because chances are they've had their own time to reflect back on their experience and differentiate on things that were successful and maybe things that were not so successful, and different things that they struggle with, and they may have had time to analyze why that was and alternatives that would possibly help them now in the same situation. So I think that having a mentor with more experience than myself, especially in terms of a career, would only help me to see possible struggles that I may run into in my own career and be able to give me a chance to better prepare myself, and also possible strategies I could use to help me get through any areas of struggle or concern. So I think that an important quality of a mentor is also someone who can give feedback, both positive, but at the same time very constructively. I believe that a mentor also helps in setting realistic goals. However, at the same time, to help understand that it's okay to make mistakes. I have had a mentor in my past as a child, and now that I'm an adult, I can see a similarity in my thinking patterns of what I describe as a mentor. I used to think that a mentor is someone who is a good influence and someone that you can admire, but that was just it. However, now when I think about what a mentor is to me, I do think that it is someone who I feel is a good influence and someone who I admire. The only difference is that I'm able to dictate why that person is a good influence on me and why exactly I admire them. The answer is not simple. As I mentioned previously, it does take time to develop any type of relationship, especially one that consists of trust. And nowadays, I would look to obtain a mentor depending on the situation, as previously mentioned. So I would find a mentor that is most relatable to my circumstance, whether it's academics, being a mother, or career related, such as being in field placement and gaining experiencing in my development of becoming a child and youth worker. The time being in the child and youth worker program so far, I have been lucky enough to find a mentor. Though she is not much more experienced than I, we are able to engage in some meaningful conversations and have regular debrief sessions with each other about areas of struggles as well as success that pertains to our experience in the program and now in regards to placement. We have made sure that our conversations include confidentiality by leaving names out and that we meet regularly, even if that means just having a cup of coffee or her just sitting silently while I just vent. Sometimes the best thing a mentor can do is just be present in the moment and be that listening ear. My mentor offers me great advice and also has a great knowledge base of resources that I can refer to for additional support if needed. She also helps to remind me of the things that are most important in my life, like my family and my health. She frequently checks in with me to see if I'm meeting my self-care goals and reminds me to take time for myself and that that's important. In regards to what I would do with a mentor and that I am currently doing is requesting feedback, ask questions, ask for opinions, and most importantly, ask them to be honest. I would discuss events and experiences that happen and ask if they've had similar situations and how they worked through it and what helped them and what didn't. When finding a mentor or developing a so-called relationship with them, I would want there to be at least amount of negotiating as possible, because I feel that if there is a need to negotiate, then that creates a type of barrier that is allowing me from utilizing my mentor for what I really want to use them for. I want my mentor to be very open to discussing relevant things that have an impact or an effect on my life. However, I would negotiate with them by asking if they're okay with that and ask them about their guidelines and their boundaries. And I would want to make sure that they feel comfortable with me disclosing information to them and that I want them to be my mentor in the first place. As people change and their lives take turns in all different directions, sometimes unexpected, there is always the possibility that the mentorship would have to come to an end. For an example, my mentor plans on moving out to Alberta in the next year or so. Though she hasn't made that move yet, that is something that I will have to adjust to and accept when that time comes. That being said, our relationship will at some point have some type of closure. I am confident that our relationship will still stay strong once she is gone, but I know that it just won't be the same. In terms of closure, however, I know that because she is an excellent mentor as well as a friend, closure will more look like a talk to you later rather than a goodbye. I believe that she will still be able to provide me with some good guidance upon her departure and still provide support to me until I'm able to find another mentor. So like I said, it will be more like a talk to you later rather than a goodbye, but I'm also aware that as my life experiences change and I adapt to new things, my needs may change and I may look for a mentor that will better and more specifically be able to suit my situation or circumstances given that time. So time will only tell, and my future experiences will help to shape that. Until then, I focus on having a mentor that is able to help me in the here and the now and proceed one day at a time. I feel that my supervision needs this far, particularly within the Child and Youth Worker program, have met my expectations. Supervision in relation to in-class practice within the program and not being in field placement has met my needs probably the most effortlessly. So for an example, assignments are followed by clear outlines, which also include rubrics to help with meeting expectations of the courses. And the fact that when you're in class, there's always a professor there making it easy to ask questions and request guidance if needed. And more often than not, when guidance is needed or clarification, I'm typically not alone, and other students are typically have similar questions, and they're pretty effortlessly and easily answered. In terms of my expectations within the field, however, are a little bit different. Like any job I have had or will have in my future, my expectations are all relatively similar. I do expect my supervisor to provide feedback regularly, be able to debrief with me if or when needed and necessary, respect my boundaries, and provide me with an opportunity to learn as well as apply my experience and knowledge that I feel would be beneficiary bringing into practice. And I expect to be treated as an equal and just overall to be respected. If all those expectations can be met, I feel that it is a significant step in having a confident and well-established connection with my supervisor. I also expect that my supervisor believes in me and that they're able to seek answers even from me and ask my input, and trust that when they're not around physically to supervise me, that they can trust me that I can step up and supervise myself or reach out for alternative supervision if or when needed. In any field of practice, I feel that creating a positive relationship with your supervisor is important. In order to work together most effectively, a positive connection must be in place. For myself, in regards to field placement, I am not afraid to ask questions or request feedback, and by doing so has provided me opportunities to bond and establish a good foundation for a positive relationship with my supervisor. I let my supervisor know of my goals, my boundaries, and what I'm comfortable with and what I'm not. And I also know that approaching my supervisor for guidance when I'm unsure of something is okay, because I am still learning and growing as a professional. As a result, open communication is key. The only variable that I may struggle with is, what if my supervisor is experiencing burnout themselves and they're not adequately able to provide me with support or guidance that I'm looking for? I feel that if this was the case, I would fear that because they are experiencing burnout, I would be reprehended negatively and would then create a barrier to keeping or having a positive connection. So self-monitoring of professional development is a strategy used to help assess progress. In regards to supervision, it's important to recognize that as a developing child and youth worker, or any career-oriented establishment for that matter, it's imperative that being able to access means of supervision or take it upon yourself to make decisions and solve problems is just part of the job. There's going to be times where a supervisor will not be there to assist me, and I will have to adhere to the knowledge and experience that I obtain. Which brings me to my next point in regards to what my current skill sets are. When it comes to my professional development, I feel comfortable in attempting to solve problems by myself first before requesting help, and I know that I have many resources and information that I can turn to research the possibilities. And I feel that I am developing a good sense of the many competencies within the COIW field. However, I'm just beginning to finally get the opportunity to apply my learned skills into real life practice through, my field placements and in debriefing sessions that we have with our integrative seminar. So far with my experience, there have been many times where I've not been under supervision, and I've had inquiries and concerns, but was not able to bring that to the attention of my supervisor right away. As a result, I took the initiative, referred to my resources to help provide me guidance, and at the available time, I reviewed and provided details of the situation with my supervisor. That being said, I did feel quite comfortable with being my own supervisor at times, and I keep that in mind that, again, it's okay to make mistakes. It only creates further learning opportunities and room to grow. So I will ensure that I'm not plateauing or at a standstill by always taking advantage of continual learning. I will push to try new things, such as strategies that I may have not tried before, and I'm open to seeking alternative supervision if or when it's necessary to do so. When speaking of self-monitoring of my own self-care, I think about my personal and professional development plan and the goals that I've created. In constructing my plan, I did take it quite serious, and it has been revised and revised again. And each time that I do revise it, I take it more serious in applying my goals to my real life, and I felt were areas and goals that I really wanted to enhance or focus on. I made these goals to help lessen the potential of experiencing burnout and compassion fatigue. So before coming into the Child and Youth Worker program, I didn't really think about what burnout or what compassion fatigue were, but based it off previous events and experiences. I can say to some effect that I have experienced both, and I just didn't realize it at the time. Now that I'm able to recognize it and analyze ways both of them are likely to occur, I have been able to begin applying goals and strategies that help to lessen the chance of it happening. So a big part of this includes having a mentor and someone to talk to and debrief with and seek guidance and support from. So based off of past experiences, I am able to say that signs of burnout for myself personally include physical and emotional exhaustion. I've been always tired and disoriented. I've had a hard time focusing on tasks. I felt feelings of helplessness and useless, and often I just wanted to be left alone. I found myself being withdrawn and uninterested from what I was doing, and at that time it was my job. I didn't want to go to work, and when I did, I just couldn't wait to get home. I often missed a lot of days, made excuse after excuse why I wasn't going to work. And though compassion fatigue and burnout share a lot of similarity, the difference for me was that compassion fatigue included not being able to separate my work life from my professional life. I was taking my work home with me, and I was asphyxiated on clients' issues that they had going on in their own lives. Whereas burnout was more sudden and came apparent faster, and it was more intense, whereas compassion fatigue was more a gradual effect. And I was finding myself emotionally tied up with other people's life situations and their trauma. In regards of knowing whether or not I'm experiencing burnout or compassion fatigue and having already experienced the effects of them, I'm now learning about them more in depth through the program of child and youth work, and I'm able to recognize when either of them may be occurring in my life. So for an example, I know that with burnout, I would likely start off with being tired all the time, wanting to be left alone, and I just wouldn't want to be held accountable for any responsibility, such as going to field placement or completing assignments or going to work once I do begin a career in the field. I would stay home, make excuses to why I am at home. I would neglect my other activities, which are included in my self-care plan. So for an example, I would start eating less nutritious meals. I would be less active with my son. I would avoid answering the phone, and I'd probably try to avoid things that were even relevant to the underlying issue of what was causing burnout in the first place. As for compassion fatigue, I would find myself thinking of clients and people outside of the context that I would be expected to. I would feel emotionally impacted the most. I would have a hard time being emotionally available for clients because I'd be too asphyxiated with it on my own personal time that it would be difficult to come back into the workplace and speak to them on a more professional level. And I would just feel emotionally drained and feel like there was nothing else that I would be able to do that would help the other person or help a family or a youth or a student or whatever the situation may be. So in a sense, I would just feel unworthy of being able to provide appropriate and adequate support to them. Burnout and compassion fatigue can definitely have a serious impact on your life, both personally and professionally. And if you're able to recognize that it may be starting to happen, it's best to try and prevent it from progressing the earliest that you can. Or if at all possible, lessen the potential for it to develop in the first place. So for me, I know that keeping my work life and personal life separate is best. And if at the end of each day I can move on from my job and go home and focus on the responsibilities that are there, then that's a healthy balance. So for me, I know that maintaining social contact with my friends and family help also to keep a nice balance. So my friends are my go-to place to relax my mind and just a chance to have some laughs and spend some time doing some recreational activities that we all enjoy. As for my family, I spend a lot of time going camping and taking part in many music festivals with them, and we spend a lot of time with our other immediate family too. And because my family is very music oriented, music has always played a great escape for me to go to help relax my mind, and a place where that I can feel happy and creative and just at peace with myself. So I do play the piano and the mandolin, and I am learning how to play the acoustic guitar a little bit better too, and just learning and being able to focus on, the melodies and, just learning new songs and a new instrument. It just helps me to be able to focus on something that I really enjoy. So if I see red flags merging of signs of burnout, I would most likely just get out of the house and away from the situation which is causing burnout or compassion fatigue in the first place, and spend some time with my friends and get together with my family and most likely play some music. However, if I experience burnout, I would most definitely seek counseling. I think that particularly in the field of child and youth work, or any type of job that requires caring or supporting others through a traumatic event or a crisis or an emergency situation, that it's important to have a counselor, regardless of if you have or haven't experienced burnout or compassion fatigue. I think that it's important to have someone that you can talk to regularly and to debrief with, so that you're not always left alone with all these thoughts in your mind. And it's just good to be able to talk about it and to express yourself and to get some feedback and some strategies and some advice from someone that may or may not have experience. It's just sometimes good just to have someone there to be that listening ear. I also think that my mentor would play an important role in helping me lessen my chance of experiencing burnout or compassion fatigue. In terms of recovering from burnout and compassion fatigue, however, it would take a lot of willpower and determination to come back and try again. I don't think that I would be able to do it by myself, and I would definitely need additional support. I would try my best to reflect on why burnout compassion fatigue happened in the first place and ways that I could have prevented it from happening, and begin just to plan for the future. I would make new goals. I would practice my own intervention strategies that have worked for me in my past, and I would definitely implement intervention strategies and different therapeutic activities that I've learned throughout the child and youth worker program so far. Mindfulness exercises such as meditation, they play a big role in my life. So I would make an attempt to incorporate that into my regular schedule more often than what I do now. And as for returning to practice, I would think about it if I was the right fit for the particular position, or if I felt strong enough that it was too overwhelming or out of my skill set to handle. I unfortunately would begin a new search for alternative practice and hopefully find something more accommodating to my physical, emotional, and psychological needs. However, I would never give up, but I would definitely put my well-being first. And I always live by the saying, I work to live and not live to work. It speaks to me in a way that I'm not just going to work to get by, but more so in a sense that I will not work if it means that my values and my self-worth will be diminished and unsatisfactory. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and I look forward to further evolving in the child and youth worker field and being able to further reflect on supervision, mentorship, and self-monitoring of self-care and my professional development. So thank you.